Hello, Ryan.
Hello, Rachel.
How you doing?
Well, I got a fever, Rachel. This isn't a joke. I've got a fever, so watching the episode of Babylon 5 we are doing today was perfect. If there's any episode other than Exogenesis in Season 3 to have a fever while viewing, I mean, Exogenesis was written with a fever, but this one that we're going to be discussing is the one. So I'm feeling hot stuff. I've got hot flashes. I'm going through, as my mum would call it, the change. I'm kidding. I'm not going through menopause. But Rachel, how are you?
I'm doing better than you by the sounds of it because I don't have a fever. Though I do wonder if that would have made this experience of watching this particular episode of Babylon 5 any better.
If I shoot some steam in your face, will that give you the sensation of a fever?
I don't know.
If I put some bullets in a pipe,
we
will it work?
We were cuddled up on the couch, so you were basically like a hot water bottle on me. Anyway.
There you are, people. So that was very yum yum as well. Like that warmth of me was yum yum because it was a bit chilly that day, and so you were saying yum yum, and I said, Rachel, you got to save that for the podcast. You got to save it for our show where we look at things from a yum yum point of view. We say, we give ratings with yum or yum yum, and we ask who in this episode would have said yum yum, and we'll circle back around to that. But we're reviewing and rewatching episodes of science fiction television on our show, and we're going through Star Trek Discovery and Babylon 5 currently, and you're here for Yum Yum 5, so that means Babylon 5 is the piece that we're talking about, and not just any episode.
Yeah.
Not just any. An episode so powerful that we had to bring in a guest because...
I was about to say, but it's not just us.
It's a Naroon episode, so we had to bring in a professor of Naroonology. Pat is here. Pat, how are you?
I'm well. I think my title is Chief Bonehead, but only because, Mbryo.
They do have bones on their head. Do you ever believe that it's a bone on their head? Do you?
Rather than
sure?
in their head.
Only ever convinced by the effects? No. I am convinced that they have tiny ears, though.
Yes.
Like those cute little ears. They're so little. Yeah.
They're so little. You want to just nom on them. So, Pat, we've had you on a few times already. Each Naroon episode, we bring you in, and we didn't want to skip out on this one, even though JMS...
It's a big moment for Naroon.
It's a big turning point. Even though JMS would like you to skip on this episode, he even said on the Lurker's Guide, if you missed this one, that's okay.
I know, it's like such a big episode for... I guess it's the B story. But yeah, I think he says he apologizes to the fans about this episode.
As he should.
We've isolated ourselves in order to attain a purity of thought. Because purity of form and purity of intent, purity of execution, that is the only way. The only way the door will open.
The door.
We are talking about Grey 17 is missing. And Pat, we gave you the DVD description for this. So could you tell us what the DVD has to say about Grey 17 is missing?
Grey 17 is missing. There's no there. Garibaldi discovers a completely concealed and inhabited station level. Meanwhile, Delenn becomes the likely next head of the Rangers, but a combative rival emerges to challenge her.
Wow. What a beautiful way to describe this. Now, the person who had YYE, Yum Yum Energy, and we bring Yum Yum to our podcast because there was a line of dialogue from Star Trek Discovery where a character randomly, abruptly, strangely said Yum Yum, and it made us question the English language and our own beings as humans. Are we even alive? Am I in the Matrix? Am I dead this whole time? Yum Yum awoke something in all of us, and so we want to bring it to our podcast. And who had YYE, Yum Yum Energy? Rachel?
Naroon.
Ooh, interesting choice. Pat?
It's that little puppet I would have loved it if right when Garibaldi showed up, he just went,
the doll
yum, yum, and then shot him.
The doll that shoots tranquilizers
Yeah,
from its eyes.
which makes no sense when you know what the cult's about and how they don't believe in violence. And
Right.
Yeah, that's a good one, actually. I'm actually quite swayed to that. Mine,
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be an obvious pick. Jeremiah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
How can you go past Freddy himself? He's
Freddy.
got YYE all over the place. He's crazy, but I'm going to side with Pat. The puppet, the ventriloquist doll, is a great... Who voiced that, by the way?
Well, I was going to say, I always remembered it being that he was the one who operated it, so it's kind of the same, but that was just how I remembered it, so it's not clear when I rewatched it, but...
I don't think it's him. I don't know who voiced the puppet. Is it on IMDb? Wouldn't it be funny if it was the guy who did Kosh's voice, because he often does voices for things in the series? That would be...
I am also convinced to give it to the Trank doll.
The Trank doll, you get
Trank doll.
the most
Yeah, there's
honorable
nothing on the-
award.
Nothing on the wiki about it, so yeah, it might just be a random person
Pat,
did the voice.
you can tweet out at JMS and say, your favorite episode,
We
Grey
need it.
17 is missing. Who did the voice of the doll?
You know, I would be happy if he said it was him.
That would, if JMS, if this is his only voice cameo, that would be amazing. Rachel, Grey 17 is missing is known in the fan base of Babylon 5 as one of the worst, one of the most infamous, one of the most out there and boring episodes at the same time. But you didn't know that going into it all those years ago. So what has been your history with this, and how has it evolved over time?
My thoughts when first watching it were, it's bad. Like, it's just bad. Like, it's straight up, like, the Garibaldi plot is shit. The Delenn stuff, pretty good. Dragged down by what's technically the A plot. Just saying that makes me sad. But I'm like, yeah, it's bad, but now I'm like, it's bad, but does it deserve to be hated? There's not even enough here to hate on.
Yeah, it's lacking a lot. My overall dynamic with this is I didn't know anything about its standing in the Babylon 5's power ranking of episodes. I watched it and I was intrigued by the title. I thought the idea was fascinating, and I like a little mystery, and I'm a big fan of these type of stories of places that were forgotten about and they're discovered again. Like your abandoned amusement parks or your abandoned shopping malls, and there's hidden things within real things, and I think about those a lot in real life. I find those fascinating, but I watched it and I really didn't pay any attention to that titular plot. I was drawn in by the Naroon stuff because I've liked that character, and I really wasn't expecting him to come in, so I was more distracted by the rather compelling
The shiny
plot.
bone that is
the shiny bone
Naroon.
that is Naroon. That oftentimes when I'm rewatching this, I almost forget that Grey 17 is missing, and yet, in all fairness to me, this is one of the weaker episodes, especially in season 3, because you are now back to season 1 style storytelling. This is like Naroon's first episode in Babylon 5, where you have Naroon, this compelling character with a drive and a motivation to do something, and you keep cutting away to some other plot that isn't nearly as interesting.
I think the performance is what makes it more compelling than the characterization, but that's just me.
Pat, Grey 17 is missing. What has been your go-around with this one?
Yeah, I think I would mirror what you were saying, that you kind of, you ride along with the Grey 17 plot with Garibaldi. It's a season 1 story. It might as well have been cutting to him with Walker Smith at another boxing match, because it's so separate and just over there. But I like, spoilers. I like this episode. I know people say skip it, but because of the Naroon, but especially the Marcus. Like, I think this was one of those episodes where like I'm starting to like Marcus the first time I watched the show. He's starting to grow on me, and then he, does like a very King Arthur's court kind of, he's going to die for her, and it's very cool, and it feels like a fun scene. For on a rewatch, it had a bit of a different feel for me. Recently, when I mentioned to my girlfriend I was going to be watching this episode for the podcast, she went and found, because I think I'd forgotten about it. Maybe you guys mentioned it to me, but the actor who plays Naroon, what's his name there? Sorry, Vickery. He played Scar in Lion King musical. Mm-hmm. So she just kept playing it over and over. So, and since we know that Marcus can sing Gilbert and Sutherland, I was like imagining they were singing while they were fighting this time.
That would have made this a top tier episode.
Right? Like so I can add that internally for myself, that he's like telling Marcus that, he should be prepared, in a Scar voice. Like it felt like, so I gave it some extra energy, but I've always liked the episode despite the Grey 17 stuff, just because of Naroon and Marcus fighting off in a eerie hallway. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's a fun episode.
But there's a third plot that we haven't mentioned. Telepaths are very important to the war now. And we even open up the episode with a little bit of telepath hijinks.
Hit on.
Zach gets hit on. He's got just some guy who does have a name. His name is Harry Sanders, but the credits put him as First Man. And I don't know.
Oh, that's what that is. Okay.
I don't know why. I don't know. Somebody tell me why. It's even in the credits of the episode. So there we go. But we have the telepath plot, and it's very small and very minor. And this is one of those things where, on a rewatch factor, this is inconsequential. Like, I don't remember anything of this plot really going anywhere. Like, we're getting the Underground Railroad, and it's like, okay, and I guess we now have more telepaths, but I do not remember in future episodes.
Don't go after Franklin.
I don't remember in future episodes that being that important, of their connections to the Underground Railroad and any struggles that we have with getting that. What I do remember is we have a group of other telepaths that are on Babylon 5 Frozen that will be important to the war to come, but that's to a different war even. But that is one of those things where we talk about Grey 17 is missing, but there's a third little plot here, and it is one where it seems like it's going to be more consequential to the grander story, but at least
it's not.
But for myself, it's one where I go, okay, they paid lip service to it, nice.
It's like, oh yeah, you explained this tiny bit of backstory.
But does it pay off later that they're like, we try to get telepaths and everybody was too afraid? Because they mentioned that. But like, are we short of telepaths later? Like, while fighting the shadows, it's not really phrased that way. Like, they just like, all right, activate our telepaths, like as like a tactical maneuver. But it's never been like a shortage of supplies.
Yeah, and in this story, it is about getting the information from the Underground Railroad, which has been in the series before. So it gives this idea to the audience that wasn't a one-off. We're going to bring that back. We're going to expand upon that. Maybe we'll see some of those characters again. And what do you do when you have an oppressed people who are on the run and you're trying to enlist them into your big galactic war? Maybe there's some political drama that happens from that. But I think this is the only time it's really mentioned. Can you think of when the Underground Railroad ever gets mentioned again?
Not further later. Like, yeah, it's only earlier on in the series, I think.
Yeah, it's just a thing that happened here. And I guess the most important takeaway from this is what's happening with Franklin. Isn't that right, Rachel?
Yeah. He's in a drug den. That's what it's coded as to me.
He's detoxing.
Yeah, he's detoxing in some red curtains. And Ivanova finds him to be like, hey, we need this information. And he's just like, can't you see? I need to be left alone.
Yes. He looks like shit. Richard Biggs is really great in the scene. Like, he has this indignant rage that's bubbling underneath all of his lines. I thought it was rather good. I thought
he
that
sells
this
it.
did much more than the entire episode walkabout for Franklin's character. When it comes to him facing his demons and seeing him go through withdrawals is cool. It's something that I didn't expect them to do, and I appreciate that they have it here, but I also appreciate that Franklin is sick and tired of trying to find himself while all of his friends keep tailing him and keep interacting with him. And he's like, how am I supposed to find myself if I keep turning around and you guys are right there asking me for things from my old life?
I can't do what I gotta do if you and Garibaldi are always following me around. So I'm gonna give you what you want under one condition. Don't send anybody else after me.
I can't guarantee that.
Yes, you can.
I think we should talk about the Grey 17 is missing plot, because the telepath stuff hands over to the Grey 17, where we come to Zach and he walks in to their office and Garibaldi's playing with a gun, which...
Polishing his... Yeah, you ever walk in on a guy polishing his gun? Yeah.
I did notice that Jerry Doyle, every time he touched the gun, would then put the gun in the other hand and then try and wipe his hand with the rag because the gun is dirty and greasy, I guess. And so people look at that scene.
The whole point was that he was like polishing it up and
Yes.
cleaning it.
But it's amusing. Have a look at that scene, people, and look at how Jerry Doyle does a lot of hand acting. I'm reminded of in Casablanca, where you have, I forget his name, but the resistance leader fighter, the good man that she has to go off with, and he's trying to wrap a bandage around his injured hand, but the actor doesn't know how to do it, so you have 5 minutes of the guy just dressing and redressing his wound because the actor has no clue how to do it. I just was reminded of that, of like, I guess I keep doing lots of hand stuff while I talk because it makes it seem more dynamic.
The one thing I did notice in that scene was, not Casablanca, but Babylon 5, was I think Jerry Doyle knows how to handle a gun in real life because he never puts his finger on the trigger. Like, it's that training you have. It's like you only put your finger on the trigger if you're ready to pull it. Whereas Conaway is like, he's got his finger on the trigger. Even if it's a prop gun, they have treat it as like a live weapon at all times. So he's always got his finger across it, not on the trigger. So I thought that was, I noticed that this time around.
Yeah, and that could be a real life actor thing or just character building because Zach's never had a gun and he didn't even know that they still made ammunition for them. I did like that of, well, yeah, guns still exist. Just because we have laser guns, we still have normal guns, but they're just used for these purposes. It was very logical, made sense. This was the part of the story of Grey 17 where you go logical, makes sense, and that
disappears.
That
soon.
disappears. That disappears soon. Rachel, how do you feel about Babylon 5 trying to go for spooky horror? Because we have the maintenance man trying to repair this area, and he's in the hole, and we get he's being dragged down and he's screaming.
But before that, we get a very classic horror thing. And it annoys me even when it's done well. He's calling in to be like, you're telling me that this thing is wrong. I'm looking. It's not wrong. Everything's fine here. And they're like, keep looking. And then he turns around and he's immediately like, here it is.
But Rachel...
And then he gets sucked out.
But Rachel, he said, how did I miss that? See, there's a bit of spooky element there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what that is.
Did it send a chill?
The guy was eaten in a very Fast and Furious way.
Yeah.
He was in the Fast and Furious, that's why I said it.
Yes, I looked up the actor as well, and I went, oh, cool, this episode's got some actors in it, big or small, and I smiled and went, oh, they can all reminisce about their time on Grey 17 is Missing. The best episode of Babylon 5.
He's like, which is my best work with a number in it? Grey 17 is Missing or Too Fast, Too Furious? I don't know. I think I might. It's a hard one.
Yeah, one of them as a number twice.
He acted his heart out.
He had to do the scream. The silly scream that these sci-fi shows
Oh
make
my god,
their
I'm
acting.
being eaten!
I'm being killed.
Why is this taking so long?
Why is this taking so long? My legs, my
I'm
legs.
gonna keep screaming because they haven't yelled cut yet.
Right. Yeah.
This kicks off a mystery and a spooky mystery.
Garibaldi loves mysteries.
Yeah, I love how he knows that there's important stuff for him to be doing, but he says, I'd rather do this inane plot because I love mysteries. I guess you do.
Okay.
Okay.
This makes, like, Sheridan has established that he loves mysteries, but he got to go on a stupid adventure earlier this season, so now it's Garibaldi's turn.
Garibaldi either has a love for mysteries or no tolerance of mysteries. Like, earlier this season, there was a King Arthur mystery, and he didn't give a single shit about that. He was not at all interested. He didn't give a single shit about the mystery of what's taking over the lurkers. I don't know. Sometimes...
Well, he wants to space them all.
Oh, there you are. So, yeah, that's correct. You nailed this. The mystery, I actually rather enjoy how this proceeds. I rather enjoy how it unfolds because he does it in a very matter-of-fact, mundane way. Okay.
I still don't get why he walked out of the horny tube just, like, not even trying to make sure that the door stayed open. He just
right. Security override. Keep door open.
Straight out. And it's just like, dude, just, like, oh, go, okay, I've figured this out.
I have an
answer.
answer.
Go back up.
I have an answer for you.
Because he needs to be that stupid for the plot to keep going.
Well, he used up his brain cells when he had that amazing little quippy monologue about thin air, chubby air, fat air, air that just needs to work out a bit.
God.
He used up his wit in the episode, so now he's on dumb level. Yeah, okay, Pat. We've noticed this in our rewatch, but I want to know from you. It feels oftentimes the laziest or worst plots are given to Garibaldi consistently. We still like him as a character, but it seems like if you had to make a top 10 list of worst Babylon 5 episodes, Garibaldi will be involved in more than one. And I was just wanting to know, have you noted that, or is it different for you, and how much of a Garibaldi fan are you?
I would count myself to put him. He would be like, he wouldn't be my favorite character of the show. I like what they do with him, except for like season 5, but that's, everybody. But yeah, no, he does like land on some stinkers. I think it's because he's supposed to be like the everyman a bit more, so they kind of give him like not important stories, maybe, because he's just like, oh, I have a friend who does boxing thing, but this is not going to matter at all, and I'm gonna have a detective story where I find a whole missing level on a space station. It's like he's either drinking the bottle or he's trapped in a bottle episode, I guess. Yeah.
And there was a dummy that shot tranks out of its eyes. It was very strange, but it was all supposed to be perfect. That was the thing about it. And there wasn't a way out, but there was, except it was spiritual, and you had to die a perfect death. That's where the Tsar came in, and either it was going to kill me or I was going to kill it, and... Am I going too fast for you?
It's not as if Garibaldi's even bad in Grey 17 is missing. Yes, he makes that dumb choice of not closing the lift door, which is the writing being stupid there. But even once he's in there, I really didn't feel like his character was being stupid beyond belief or unrealistic to who he is. Like how many, say, TNG episodes will be like, this week, Deanna Troi is whatever we decide, or this week on Voyager, Chakotay is whatever we decide this episode. It's not as if Garibaldi's an inconsistent character. He is consistently given bad plots, and it's a weird juggling act because I hate so many plots that he's given, yet the character and the performance is still good enough where I can't say that Grey 17 is missing this specific plot of it is the worst thing I've seen for Garibaldi, let alone in the entire show, because we get him investigating it, and he does it in a way that I thought was really clever, where he's getting in the lift, and he's going level by level, counting how many seconds it takes to get between each one. And once that's established that he's doing that he's going to find Grey 17 because it's the title, after all. But I liked it. It's one of those things where in these mystery stories, whether they be your noir stories or your detective stories or your procedural shows, there is that carnal, guttural joy when you have your investigator character do something as mundane as a stakeout or an interrogation, or what he's doing here, where he's getting something that is rather innocuous and he's looking at it through a magnifying glass to see what's really going on here. And that in itself sounds fascinating as an episode.
And I like Jerry Doyle's decision to like be picking at his fingernails as he's doing the
as he's
counting.
going up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it gives him a lived-in aura to the character of Chief of Security, where I think in many other shows you would have the Chief of Security character be all business when they're doing their job, but Garibaldi, here he is just picking at his nails, just nonchalantly, just being blasé, and then once those seconds go from 3 to 6, you see his eyes light up, and that's a part of the joy of this sequence. Is Garibaldi is this character we know very well. He's good at his job, but at the same time, like many people when they do their job, there's a little bit of an autopilot mode on. There's a little bit of a, okay, I'll see if there's a missing level here. 1, 2, 3, okay, nothing. 1, 2, 3, okay, nothing.
And then we cut away for a little while, and then we cut back, so we know that, like, you know, it's taken some time to get to this stage where he's at Grey 16.
Another aspect I really like about this is it just shows how time-consuming a job like Garibaldi's would be. And that's a part of the joke at the very end of this episode, where we go to the end and Sheridan's like, where the hell were you all day? And it's like, well, I was actually doing this rather bizarre little storyline that took up the whole entire day. And you just chuckle at that. You just go, okay.
Puts his feet up on Sheridan's desk. I was like, you've been walking around in Grey 17 like schlock all day. Like, I don't know what you've been walking in.
That's a great piece of characterization, even though it's attached to a plot where you wouldn't say it's very detailed. I mean, Pat, how do you go with these investigation plots, especially when you get them in genres outside of your procedurals or your crime shows? When Babylon 5 or Star Trek or any of these sci-fi shows have their crime plot or their mystery plot, are you a fan of those?
I always love whenever they like cross blend like genres into it. So like, yeah, you have your sci-fi action adventure show, but like, let's throw like this crime noir investigation or like a court case episode. Like I like when they do that because it helps us feel like it takes place in a real world. You know, I'll dare say,
livens
like,
it up.
These things still happen. Like even if you have a galactic space opera happening behind it, so it grounds the show which the show is not taking place on ground, but you know what I mean.
I think of it as something rather interesting when it comes to Babylon 5, because I think that in the first season you would get a lot of different style episodes. Like, this is the medical drama episode, and then this is the noir episode, and then this is, and we could go on. But as the series goes along and it gets far more serialized and far more in tune with itself, we don't get the investigation episodes as strongly as we did. We don't get the specific medical drama ones as strongly as we did. And so, while something like a Star Trek, whether it be TNG or Deep Space Nine or Voyager, they have a certain format that allows those to exist far more frequently in a season. Say, like, that's TNG in a nutshell. You will have an episode that will be a silly, fun, comedic fare. Like, you have a Reg Barclay episode, and then you'll have an episode where it's about, say, talking about mystery ones, Clues, that episode of TNG where the crew don't remember this stuff that happened to them, but Data does. but is he lying? What's he hiding from us? And it becomes a little mystery, and they have to figure it out, and they have to find the clues of what's going on. And you can have that whilst also having a Q episode. While with B5, there comes a point where it's got a good grasp on the themes and the styles of stories it likes to tell. Your political stuff, your war show stuff, your we can go on with many things. Season 3 especially has been great with that. So an episode like Grey 17 is Missing, where we have this little mystery where Garibaldi's having to go cop mode, it does make you think of Season 1, doesn't it, Rachel?
Yep.
Is that a bad thing inherently? Like, outside of the quality of this story, would that still be something that would take you out?
I think in Babylon 5 it would. I just feel like it's a step backwards in what they're trying to do. If it was more of a, like, and let's reset the board and go back to something and do it better, that would be very different.
Unless you're making a very specific statement. We get in Season 4, the other ISN episode, and that's a very specific statement being made. It's a mirror to that first one to show us how much things have descended into tyranny and fascism and propaganda. But I agree with you. I think even if this plot was well written, a little part of me would be taken out by the fact this feels like such a throwback when we're in the height of all of this action, where this is in between like some banger. Like the next episode is the big Lord Reefer episode and the Rock cried out no hiding place, which just feels like a natural extension of the stories we've been going through in this back half of Season 3. And yet we get something like Walkabout, although I think it's flawed and I'm not a big fan. I do understand why that's there. Well, this Grey 17, the specific Grey 17 plot, even at this point in the show, I don't know if I would accept it. What about you, Pat? What do you think about that?
I mean, yeah, especially what you're saying about Walkabout. Like, yeah, you accept it. You know why it's there. And to shade of degree, just checking in on Franklin in this episode, it's like, you know why it's there. Yeah, Grey 17, the A story is doesn't live up, doesn't fulfill. But I don't know. I think I like them pausing it. I know, I guess it would come down just the quality of the story. Because sometimes I want, like, let's check in on people in a character-driven show. But this wasn't that great of a story.
No, it's not a character-driven story for Garibaldi either.
No,
it's not. That's what I mean. If it had that element, yeah. I was really hoping that it was like when he opens up the door, it would have been like a half floor, and it would have been like a being John Malkovich story. Like that would have been more interesting.
No, it would have been great if he opens up
being Andreas Katsoulas.
Oh, yeah,
and then everybody becomes Andreas Katsoulas. Yeah.
That would be awesome. I would have liked it if he opened up the door and there was just Lisa's there, and then he has like a psychodrama about his love of his life and how everything's fucked up. Wouldn't that be funny if he got hit by the dart and that's what happened?
It's funny in the sense like the last time I was on the Yum Yum with you guys, the other A plot was kind of the same kind of story of like that was Sheridan. He gets kidnapped and they gotta find a way to get out and all this stuff. And it's not really, I mean, the only difference is that Garibaldi doesn't make a lifelong friend with a sword. But it's kind of the same kind of mirroring where it's like just like I don't want to say fish out of water, but he gets himself into a sticky situation where he shouldn't have been, right?
And he gets himself into a very pulp story. Another thing I was going to bring up to you, Pat. I know that you've engaged with a lot of Babylon 5 media. Have you read any of the comics at all?
I've never gotten my hand on the comics. It's sad. If I ever saw one at like a con or like a flea market, I would. Okay, I would eat them up. But I think I read like a digital one, but it was a short fiction.
I was curious what the comics offered up, because if this was a comic, like if this story of Garibaldi, meanwhile, one day on Babylon 5, found this spooky, mysterious level on the station that nobody else has noticed, and there's like a weird-ass cult in there with a monster, that would be a great comic book to read. But as an individual episode, it just falls apart because the logic of it, and it just is very silly, and the way that they visually demonstrate this story, whether it's the monster design or Freddy Krueger's performance or the shooting with the bullets through the pipe and steam, it's more unforgivable than if it was in a medium like a comic, where you have more liberties to stretch those bounds of logic than you do in a series, a live-action television series. I would rather have read Grey 17 is Missing as a short story or a comic book. That's...
Yeah,
I think even in a comic book, you probably would have even had like a detective voiceover from Garibaldi, where he was like...
Yeah.
He describe things in a much more interesting way than a visual only.
Yeah, and you can have an aesthetic and a mood in your comic book that you don't have in Babylon 5. Because that was a thing too. Once he opens up the door and he goes into Grey 17 is Missing, yes, it's slightly darkly lit and there's a bunch of garbage everywhere, but there's something about the aesthetic of it that didn't feel very spooky to me.
It doesn't even look that worse than functional rooms or corridors that we saw of the other levels of Grey Sector.
It still looks better than Down Below.
Yeah.
Yes, and perhaps this is in season 3. We've talked about the color palette and the lighting has a very bright and vibrant tone to it all. If this was lit in the way that, say, season 5 is, I could see the aesthetics of this being far more grungy and having that feel to it. Because when I think of season 5, I think of a kind of orangey browns and a real grain to the image that we're watching. Well, in season 3, I think of vibrant greens and blues and...
You think of the colors of the DVD packs.
Yes, I do. And Rachel, we go into Grey 17 and it's a mystery, and I think you can expand upon this. None of what we've said matters, because once he gets in there, he's engaged in possibly one of the dumbest plots. Like, it's just really dumb. Like, that's the be-all and end-all is it's really dumb that he meets a weird little cult. And
it doesn't even matter. There's a fucking cult there. Like, if the cult wasn't there and he just encountered the monster, there would be very, very few differences.
Start making sense. Now. I am. Now, if we are the universe, then the universe must consume us in an act of absolute purity. Now, within the universe, we have a perfect predator. No instinct, no thought, except for the hunt. Living perfection. When is our time? We choose to return to the universe through that perfection. Through the Tsar.
Zarg? You have a Zarg in here? Are you nuts?
there's just one or two little things that happens in a story that makes you know, oh, this is going to be stupid. Oh, this is going to be annoying or dumb. And it's that little doll talking and shoots him with a trank thing. And it's like
you know what you're in for now.
Oh, okay. I'm in for a stupid thing. And then once we meet Jeremiah, the gloves are off. It's one of those where, you know, once he shows up and once he starts talking, you're either for this preaching. You're either for this or against it. And I don't know very many people who are actually for this story wholeheartedly. It's one of those things where the Jeremiah character is explaining the philosophies of the universe and of life and things that we've already...
The Mbryo get it. The Mbryo really get it.
That's what I'm going to say. We already understand this because we know the Mbryo believe in it, and we've had it explained to us in very eloquent, subtle, and slow ways. Well, here, it is a sledgehammer to the face with this stuff. It always feels to me like JMS is stroking his chin and looking at the audience saying, do you like my clever little idea of how the universe works? Oh, I say smart. I'm a little smart guy. Pat, are we being too mean? Is this plot as dumb as we're saying, or not?
It's pretty bad. Like, you try to find things to like about it if it's just like escapism or anything like that, but it's not a great story. I especially like Rachel pointing out that, like, yeah, if there wasn't a cult there, if it had just been like a Monster of the Week episode where Garibaldi, Vampire Slayer, has to stop this monster, like, I think that might have been just as interesting. Maybe it could have done more, but
Yeah, it's because the cult are a bunch of losers too. It's not.
Yeah, they're not convincing anyone to join. No.
No, and I wish that they were an evil cult. Like
How
do
did they
wish
fucking
that.
get there?
That's another thing. Once you start picking at how any of this works, it falls apart. Like they
I've
try
got
to
more on that, to be honest.
they try to explain it by being like, we tap into the recycling thing so we can recycle air. It's like, okay, how do you get food?
Yeah.
How do they get food?
Because you've sealed yourself in here.
Yeah. How do they eat? How do they live? How long have they been there? Has it been since the station opened up? Like, tell me.
It's got to be a pretty immense amount of space because it's a whole level. And I think Gray 17 is like closer to the outer shell of like just, they say it's just like industrial. So it's like it's a huge amount of space. So maybe if they had mentioned that, like they have like, if it was like a cool cult where they have like farming, like we stole some dirt from the baseball field.
From that baseball diamond. And then Gary
We've
was
even
like,
got coffee growing.
oh, that would have been a great...
Okay, I'm joining the cult. They got coffee.
That would have been awesome. And you could have set this up in season 2 at the baseball diamond where there's a bunch of dirt missing. And Garibaldi's like, what's happening here? And then season later, you pay it off. You have I always think of in sci-fi when you have a spaceship with a garden in it, I always think of the very pathetic botanical set that they had in Voyager, where it was just this grey room and a bunch of plants in pots on like metallic shelves.
That's shelves with wheels. Yeah, they just rolled them in.
And then they set the plants on fire because Kez has super cool mind powers.
That's right.
That's the episode where we got our first introduction to that actor who would go on to play that Vulcan high command guy in Enterprise. Was it Suval? I can't remember. I'm not an Enterprise fan.
Because he's working for the female caretaker.
Yes. And they liked him so much, they're like, you should come back in Enterprise.
The guy from Alien Nation.
Yes, there you are. Alien Nation. I like how we quickly go away from the Grey 17 plot when we have the chance.
Fast as we can.
It's our defense mechanism.
So, near the conclusion of this plot.
And to stress, 90% of what happens in here is Freddy Krueger monologuing a bunch of nonsense.
Yes.
And Garibaldi
and
being
Carl
annoyed.
Sagan quotes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and Garibaldi ends up basically taking him hostage. And then...
I like that part.
I like that part too.
He's I got the stomach ache. Okay, come here.
That was good. See, Garibaldi's good in this.
Yeah.
But
The problem is not with Garibaldi or the performance.
No, but...
That's not where the fault lies. The fault squarely lies with JMS. In my opinion.
He said he's sorry.
We got a Zarg.
We got a Zarg.
The worst alien outfit in all of Babylon 5.
It looks awful and it's shot awful.
Is it as bad as the bionic warrior thing from season 1?
Oh, I think the guy from Infection looked much cooler than this. He had a darker aesthetic, and they lit him in a way where it wasn't as obvious that it was just a guy in a big rubber suit.
It's better. It's more appropriately lit. Yeah,
and also it's a cooler design. Like he doesn't have big fingers that are rubbery and wiggle.
Yeah, he looks like Heidi Klum as a worm. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's cool enough. But the Zarg, those fucking fingers. They keep wiggling them.
Yeah, they just keep wobbling. God.
Yeah, it's like whenever you see like actors in like Lord of the Rings and they're riding on the horse and their swords are obviously fake because they're all woggle. Yeah.
There we are. We know JMS likes Lord of the Rings. Is this episode a reference to Lord of the Rings? Was there a Zarg in one of the books? No,
You're trying too hard to get off topic.
We're trying to give him some like inspirational credit. Yeah.
So at the end, Garibaldi goes, "We don't have anything to shoot this thing," and then he remembers that he has a bunch of bullets.
Right.
in his pocket. Because we saw him playing with a gun earlier, and he made it clear that they still make ammunition.
Chekhov's bullets.
Chekhov's bullets.
Set him up in the first act.
And then he's like, okay, I guess I can use this giant steam pipe.
God.
To use. Because he put the gun away. He didn't bring the gun.
Can you...
Thus, it's just Chekhov's bullets. Ask the question you're about to ask.
No, we all know it's impossible for him to have fired it the way he did with the steam. We know that's impossible. The goofs have a whole description as to why. But one of the things that drove me up the wall is he has the pipe. It's detached. He has it in his hands, and he puts the bullets in one end, and it's like he puts them all in so it slides down. But he's holding it in a way where nothing's stopping the bullets from just sliding all the way out of the pipe. And I was thinking about that a lot, actually. The fact that I was thinking about that says everything you need to know about how engaging this story is.
Well,
I mean, I was thinking about Captain Kirk making a bamboo shoot with some rocks that make his own cannon to fight a Gorn. And I was like, well, that was a lot better the first time around, yeah.
Yeah, and you had a good story with that one, too.
Mm-hmm.
You've deflated me a little bit because I had a note, because I looked up what you would actually need to potentially make this work.
Oh, yeah? What would you need? A lot of steam.
So,
did Mythbusters break this one down?
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Not to my knowledge, but this is what I found in my research. So, steam could launch a projectile like a bullet, but it takes serious pressure to develop pressure equal of that of a firearm. It also must be instantaneous pressure. So, the apparatus really wouldn't work. The apparatus that would be needed to accomplish this would be rather large, requiring a significant heat source, copious amounts of water, a super high pressure tank system, and a tube or barrel capable of withstanding high pressure as your launch platform. And in some of it, it was just like even a nuclears. Even a nuclear powered steam system might not have enough power to launch it.
Another thing, and again,
that's fun.
People who listen to this podcast know that we don't tend to pick at these little details as much because, hey, you know, TV's TV, and like we're not pointing out, say, oh, in this episode you can see this crew member over here, because
and we know that this isn't a hard science.
Yes,
sci-fi.
If the story's good enough and if the characters are good enough, then you can forgive a lot. But this is one of those where it's harder to forgive because they don't give you explanations on things. How did the Zarg get on the station? Did they bring the Zarg to the station? How did they get into Grey 17? How long have they been there? How do they eat? Like, there's so many questions. And can I punch Jeremiah because he just keeps talking and talking and talking? What happens to the cult after this story? Because we don't see him take him in, and he doesn't really reference them all that much in his final conversation. And
there's this cult.
And there's this cult. And how do they get founded, honestly? And the thing about the bullets, another fun thing is he puts all the bullets in the pipe, but how does he fire them one at a time?
Again,
because if the steam is launching these projectiles, it would be hitting the one that's closest to the source of the steam, but it keeps treating it like he's shooting them one at a time.
Is it the steam is supposed to be pushing them, or I thought it was just that it was so hot that it was...
well, then if that's the case, Garibaldi would be right, where this thing could explode in my hands and kill me because all five of the bullets...
You don't know which way the bullets are facing.
Yeah. Or they would just explode in the chamber because, you know...
And also, they point out that we don't use bullets because it can...
pierce the hull.
Yeah.
And Grey 17 is closer to the outside of that fucking shit.
Yeah, and he missed a lot too.
Yeah. Wouldn't that have been great if, like, that's how he got out? Was like he shot the thing, but he shot through like the ceiling into the other Grey 17, and somebody noticed that, and they're like, "Let's go find out why there's like bullets falling through the floor."
I would enjoy that. The episode ends with Garibaldi coming in and telling Sheridan about his wacky adventure, and it is a nice piece of lamp shading from JMS to basically say to the audience, yeah, this was a waste of time. This was innocuous and fluff, and if I make
I know it's stupid, so you can't call
Yeah,
it stupid.
yeah. I know it's stupid, so you can't get upset now, because Garibaldi comments about it in a way that highlights the stupidity of the 45 minutes you've just spent. I hate that. I hate that when shows do that. I don't like when Discovery does it. Babylon 5 rarely, if ever, does it, so when it happens here, I don't like it, but as we stated, Jerry Doyle is very good in that scene. He puts his feet up on Sheridan's table, and he's just so cocky. He's just got that comedic delivery where it almost pushes it over the line for me, but realistically, I despise the ending of the episode being basically JMS saying to the audience, I wasted your time. We go to the Minbari homeworld, Minbari Federation. A part of me wrote that in my notes and said, I don't think we needed to repeat Minbari twice there.
Yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, nice reminder that it's a federation.
Yes, I always forget that. I always forget it's a federation, but we go to Minbar, sorry, there's a lot of planets to remember. Minbar, and it's a part of the Minbari Federation, and we're tidying up the Sinclair stuff at the beginning of this. Lanier's gone into his room and he has his possessions. He didn't have many things with him. I guess he had a copy of his identicard. I guess he had more than one because he had that exact identicard in War Without End Part 1. I guess he left it behind. I don't know. But this sequence is basically to set up the plot of the episode for Delenn, which is we now need somebody in charge of the Rangers.
We need a new Ranger 1.
I appreciate that they brought back Rathen. He was a guy that appeared in the War Without End Part 1, and there was a definite vibe that he had a very deep connection to Sinclair. I'm not surprised to hear...
Secretary of the Rangers is the vibe that I got from him.
I imagine he's probably in the comics or the book.
The one book I read, he's a pretty major character for that. Yeah.
So it was great to see him again. He was great. That actor's done a bunch of stuff recently. He did voice acting for Metal Gear Solid 5. So another video game voice person. So that's something to note down. And also his first name is Time. That's his name. Time.
Spelled
Time.
Time Winters.
Time Winters. That's a real name. Not just the time of the season. And so we have the proposition of Delenn, you can take the Rangers to Babylon 5 and you need to lead them
They will follow you.
They will follow you. You're the only one they trust. And it makes logical sense. You know it makes sense because even Sheridan says it makes sense. And, you're
the natural choice.
Yeah, Sheridan's all, you're the natural choice, Delenn. It makes so much sense. It's so obvious, but do we want to use the Rangers in a far more overt and public way? We've been hiding them for ages, and now we're just going to put them out in the open? And Delenn highlights that, like with JMS highlighting how he wasted our time for 45 minutes, she looks at us and says, the show is changing, guys. We are getting more into war, so we're going to have to more overtly use our soldiers.
Yeah, their position will change shortly.
Yes. So, you've been told now, Pat. On a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you for more Ranger action?
The first time I watched the show, actually, no, it's probably the same. I'd be like a 7. I was like, I'm interested in these guys. I think this
cool.
Because it felt like Babylon 5, like Sheridan, they get in the military of their own since they've been so isolated. So it felt like we're stepping up.
You, on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy were you with Legend of the Rangers fulfilling this?
I have never watched it. I've only watched one clip and you can probably guess which one.
Oh, I know the clip. Come on.
It's the kick punching one.
You need to watch it. It got everything you need in it. It's no...
You've never made me watch it. Why are you making Pat watch it?
Because he has no excuse not to have watched it. He was there when
What's
it came out.
my excuse?
It's not available in any streaming service, and I'm not spending money on a thing I'll throw out.
You won't throw it away. You're going to keep it and put it right next to your
I
Call to
probably would
Arms
keep it.
DVD.
I kept the Lost Tales. I'll keep anything.
Yeah, and you're going to put it right next to your Call to Arms and Lost Tales
Crusade.
DVDs.
Yeah.
We all know that you're a big fan of A Call to Arms. You love... Is that the one with Tony Todd in it?
That's the Tony Todd feature, yes.
And with that music that you love so much, you're always
do
going
like the
on.
music.
You love the music. Is it still Christopher Frank?
No, I think it's the guy who does Crusade's music, I believe.
Then forget it. No.
It's not the barking song, it's the regular music, yeah.
Wow.
Wouldn't you know it? Off in the corner, Scar's voice started talking, and I love Naroon, and this has to be one of my favorite.
He's your heartthrob.
This has to be one of his best moments ever because he's just such a Shakespearean dramatic little prick, and I loved it.
Prick is a great word.
Yeah, I loved it. I love it where it's just this voice. You just hear it and then it cuts to him and he's got his hood on and his big cape and he's just standing there being ominous and he's saying ominous things in that lyrical way that he speaks. The power beckons. And who among us? And I fucking love it. See, this is why Grey 17 is missing is not an episode that I can say wholeheartedly is the worst thing I've ever seen because
Don't skip it.
Don't skip
entirely.
it.
Just watch this part.
Because when we have television shows we love a lot and you get these minor recurring characters, there's ones where you get very ecstatic that they're back again because you don't expect them to come back or you're not really knowing when they'll come in, like when Jeffrey Combs in Deep Space Nine, whenever he would turn up again. You're like, yay, now he's Brunt? Awesome. Or he's another Wayoon? Awesome. And that's how I feel about Naroon, where he's usually once a season, but you don't know when he'll be there because there's not a consistent rule of thumb of when in the season he'll show up. And
It's not like, and now the Naroon episode.
Yes.
It's like, oh, Naroon's here.
Congratulations, Delenn. Power beckons, and who among us is strong enough to ignore its siren song?
Naroon.
A brilliant strategy, Delenn. I had not thought you capable of such ambition, clearly. I was mistaken.
What was your title? You're a bonehead professor or whatever?
The bonehead in chief, yeah.
Bonehead in chief. You have talked to us about Naroon in the past, and you've said he's not my Naroon yet, though. That's what
he's
said.
100% in this episode. Yeah, like what you're saying, where he just invades a space with his voice. Yeah, no, this is the Naroon. This is because, like, again, I'm comparing this especially to his first appearance, where we had. I'm trying to remember if I gave that episode a yum yum or not, but like this episode is winning over because this is my quote unquote Naroon now.
And what is your Naroon? How would you describe it?
Again, the guy who commands a presence, the guy, like him laughing at the end is like such a good payoff for him, knowing how much of a prick he is. Like, it's kind of like he's got so many more, he's like a ogre. He's got so many layers. I enjoy having him involved. And I think it's just been the right amount. You know, you could ruin the character by having him too much. So I think just him like owning the room and being a bit of a prick, it's kind of funny.
He has more dimensions to him as an antagonist at this point because, in my recollection, he wanted her to surrender the command of the Rangers. In my recollection, I was like, oh, for him to be in charge. But no, he really just wants someone from the warrior caste to be in charge. If it's him, sure. But he's not saying it needs to be me.
Yeah, he doesn't say, I will be in charge of the Rangers. It's just like somebody from the warrior caste.
Yeah, he at the end says, like, they would not follow me. They would not die for me, but they would die for you. Artlizahh. But he has more facets and layers to him in this singular episode where he's not just a mustache-twirling bad guy or a guy that's a bit of an...
He still twirls that mustache.
Yes, he does, but he's not a hothead in the way that he was in the first episode where he attacks...
He has a plan.
Where he attacks Sinclair in his quarters for no real reason. And yeah, he's got multi...
He's gunning for a fight.
He's gunning for a fight, but you can tell that there's a weight. He understands the weight of what his actions will be. Hence, he talks to Delenn. Hence, he comes up to her in this hallway and asks her,
"Please don't make me do this.
Please don't make me do this." This isn't just a guy that's like, "I'm going to kill you so that I can be in charge." He's a person that's a man of tradition, a man who has a set of beliefs that are very firmly defined, and he is here to oppose Delenn. And that is great, because before he did those things minorly. It was an echo or a whisper of those things, but in this one, he has a very well-defined set of motivations, and he is somebody who understands that what he is going to be doing will change the course of their society, but he feels like it's better than the alternative. That's awesome.
It's necessary to him.
Because, Rachel, why is he here? Why is he talking to Delenn? What's his concern?
He doesn't think that a religious person should be in charge of a military organization. And when he calls her a zealot, it's so good.
The thing I really like about B5 is we know the characters, but that doesn't mean everybody else in the show knows those characters and their motivations. So Naroon approaching this the way he is makes complete sense, because from the outside point of view, she is exactly what he describes. Somebody who has created a power vacuum and is putting themselves in the center of it and taking it up and gaining an army now through the means of through the drive of prophecy, through the drive of their religious fervor, and thinking that they are the only ones who can do this. Somebody who has destroyed their status quo, their structure, and is now replacing it with themselves. Somebody who's building up a cult of personality driven by religious dogma. That's awesome. That's awesome, because
he has a point.
That's exactly it, isn't it, Pat? He has a point. This is not one of those moments where you go, "Oh, Naroon, that's a bit of a stretch. That's a bit of a stretch."
It's like, oh, I didn't think about it from that perspective because I'm on Delenn's side, but none of those things are technically wrong.
I have no desire to rule our people.
I wish I could believe you, Delenn, but I don't. A religious zealot propelled by prophecy into a position of military and political power? Always a bad idea.
She's not power hungry, but she's still creating a cult of personality around herself. Anyways, it's happening whether she wants it or not in some ways. I was going to say, one thing that did stand out to me in this episode, I was just like, I think I don't remember it, but it was when Marcus and Naroon are facing each other. And I think I was trying to remember, the number was kind of insane where Naroon's like, I've killed tens of thousands. 50,000? Yeah. It was I was like, oh yeah, he was involved in the war and it was a one-sided thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he has a number in his head of how many humans he's killed, and he's still able to just go walk around and talk to humans that he's like, oh yeah, I've killed. How many of those were hand to hand? I think that was the implication that he's he had to have been some where just I blew up ships in the war.
Yeah. I mean,
but he's just I have no problem killing humans. That's all humans or something.
Well, he's a bigot. He talks about it in this episode where, and he talked about in the last one we saw him, the purity of our race, Delenn. You're diluting it with your precious humans and their souls, and
yeah,
we allowed
human running the ranges.
We tolerated it, but now that he is gone, you need to put a warrior in charge of this caste. Step aside. Yeah, I mean, what's great about Naroon is he can be compelling. He can have points. But he's still a bad person. He's somebody who's killed 50,000 humans. He's bigoted against them. He has very little respect for the religious caste or other Minbari in general. He's self-driven. But what this one has, what Grade 17 has to make the character deeper than that is, he's a person that when their understanding of the world is challenged, he actually takes it on board and develops and grows. We've had that briefly.
The death was his.
We had that briefly in his first episode when he had to apologize to Sinclair. He admitted his wrongdoing, but this is a bigger example of him admitting his wrongdoing and having to shift his points of view on the things that he's believed in. Because by the end of the series, he flips around. He turns around and he becomes a man whose heart is religious.
I kept on
Spoilers.
thinking about that.
Yeah, spoilers, people. But we're a spoiler podcast. We've told you this.
I know. We admit it.
We admit it. I mean, come on. You mentioned Garibaldi in season 5. Don't start now.
Right. Well, only quickly to say for season 5, why didn't they put the telepath colony in the fake Grade 17? I'm just saying.
Because Byron didn't know about it. Come on.
Yeah.
He's stupid. But the plot goes forward with Naroon is going to kill Delenn. He is going to kill her. That is a grave act because Minbari do not kill Minbari.
And they haven't for 1,000 years, but...
Because of Jeff Sinclair said to stop.
Mm-hmm. Everything is changing.
Everything is changing. And Lanier gets involved. Now, this is something that I do... Direction in this episode's a little wonky for me because you have Sheridan with Delenn and then Sheridan leaves and then immediately it's like there's Naroon in the corner over there and then Delenn's talking to Naroon, here's Lanier, turns around, there's Lanier, turns back and Naroon's gone. That's just one of those things where it's like you did it, you put too many pieces down with the cheesiness there for my taste at least. It always bugs me. It's like, what, did Lanier not see Naroon? He was right there. Is Lanier blind? I did want to note down...
He's always looking down.
He's always looking down.
Delenn was telling him not to do that anymore. Yeah.
I did want to mention that when Lanier is telling Delenn that he won't tell anyone about it, they won't break the promise... Bill Mumy did some great acting there where he doesn't have to say the words, but you can just tell from his body language and his facial expressions that...
Fingers crossed.
He's truly... and he's truly conflicted. This is one of those times where Delenn is making a call that he personally doesn't agree with. Up until now, he's agreed with most of her decisions, if not all of them. And this is one of the times where...
smack in Minbari, though.
Yeah, well, yeah.
That time.
But this is one of those times where you can tell he doesn't agree with her, and he says as much by the very end. But I thought Bill Mumy did a great job. I think that we haven't talked about Lanier enough in our Babylon 5 rewatch. She's just great. I mean, he's great to a point.
Yeah,
but,
I think that's what we keep on avoiding it because we're so soured by the way that Lanier's story ends.
Yes, it goes directions. But Pat, Lanier has to hold on to this promise, but he decides to tell our dear friend Marcus. So could you walk us through this stuff and kind of give us a deeper understanding of how Marcus's addition to this helped endear you to him as a character?
Yeah, so I think he's as much as you like insane like Star Trek, you like Vulcans, but it's Spock is like the archetype. I do think Marcus is the archetype for what we believe is like a noble ranger. He does everything a ranger should do, and that's interesting when we see like Lanier's story as a ranger, where you're like, well, Marcus wouldn't have done that. Like that's that's not how you do it. But it's I think it's just the nobility of that he was willing to die for her. He went into a fight to the death knowing he was going to lose, but he was like, it's not about whether I win this. I have to just delay it long enough so that she can take on the role. And like, that's my mission here. And I will do that to the death. And like, I'll bring it to it being interesting that Lanier was willing to ask that of him. Like Lanier knew he's basically asking Marcus to go die. So I wish there had been a bit more weight on that, but like, that's the truth of what that meant. Right. So I think maybe that's part of his conflict that Bill Mumy was portraying was. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm going to have to ask a friend to go kill, get himself killed to save Delenn, and Delenn will probably, she might not ever forgive me for that because she'll figure out that it was his fault that Marcus died, right?
But I also, I think that if Lanier could have been absent from the ceremony, he would have done it.
Maybe.
Well, it was the whole thing of Mbryo can't kill another Mbryo. Like,
yeah, that's why he has to get Marcus to go do this. And even more to this point, Marcus at this in this show currently, he knows Lanier's secret. Like, he knows that Lanier would do anything for Delenn because he loves her. And a part of what Lanier is doing here is because he loves Delenn.
Yeah.
So he's willing to break some cultural rules and the way that even highlights further Naroon's point, which is we had a very strict way of being as a people, and you destroyed that. So what are you replacing it with? Yourself. And we're seeing these ongoing ripples and repercussions where even Lanier, the good monk Lanier who was befuddled by Londo Malari's antics, even Lanier is swaying to doing some stuff that he would never have done earlier in the series because things are changing. Things are going in a direction where Lanier has to break promises and get one of his friends potentially killed, but he has a very mature understanding of what that means because he says that to Delenn at the end. Like, this is a part of it. This is a part of the Rangers and being in the military. And
also going back to Kosh when he's speaking to Jakar of, like, some people have to die. Like, some people will be lost. Some races will be lost for the betterment of the whole.
It's really great. And although I love Naroon and we think about Naroon stuff, I really did get a lot on this rewatch, a lot for Lanier and Marcus, because I'll say this. On our rewatch, I've kind of forgotten how little of season 3 Marcus is actually in. There's like great stretches where he's not here. But when he comes in, he has such a high energy that you almost are like, oh, he's always been here because he's so high energy. Jason Carter is chewing up the scenery in this episode. That whole back and forth about how Lanier is very good at stretching words around, and did you go to a school where you had to learn this? And it, like, that speech goes on for like 40 minutes. And but I like it because I've grown to enjoy Marcus a lot more at this point as well in the series because
you're a Marcus stan now.
I'm more of a Marcus stan now, but I will say this because Pat was talking about when watching it through that first time. This was one of those episodes early on that helped warm you to the character. For myself, I've talked about this. It's taken me a couple of rewatches to really grow to like Marcus as much as I do currently because there was that element of, like, he's such a wacky character and he's this handsome guy who fights. And maybe if we didn't have Warren Keffer in season 2, there would be less of a stigma around when a new character gets joined to the cast because that was a big thing. And I was curious with you, Pat, was that ever a thing that factored into you when it came to being able to accept Marcus as a character in this show? Like, what were the things that were holding you back until, like, points like this?
Yeah, I think maybe it was the one season event of Warren Keffer that I was like, I'm trying to imagine myself back when I first watched it, where I was like, this is going to be a nothing character. He'll be like a recurring character, but he's not going to be really important or one that I, grow to like. So yeah, he kind of had to prove himself. And I think this is where I was starting to get into that. Also, because, like, him being like, one of his character traits is he likes Ivanova and she doesn't like him back. Like, it's like, well, we already had a couple of episodes where Ivanova exes show up or something like that, where I'm like, all right, well, this is not really that interesting. It's about as interesting as a flyboy, where we don't need a flyboy, where the captain flies everything himself, right? So yeah, it just took some time, but I think maybe I was still missing Lou Welsh.
Yeah, we all miss Lou Welch. I cry every day, but at least we got Zach.
Before we move away from Jason Carter.
Oh, yes.
I have a story that I found on the fandom wiki.
Okay. A very trustable wiki where they've gotten directors' names wrong and I've had to personally go in and change it.
Yeah,
that's
so
how it works.
This might be entirely bullshit. I don't know, but I found it funny.
Yes, go on.
So in the weeks leading up to this episode, JMS played a prank on Jason Carter by asking Bill Mumy and several other cast members to imply that Marcus was going to die this season.
Awesome.
Carter, becoming increasingly panicked and concerned, especially as he read the scene about Marcus's fight with Naroon. In the final scene, as Marcus wakes up in MedLab, JMS wrote into the script, "You can now relax, Jason."
That's cute. I like that.
I saw that. I hope it's true because it's cute.
It sounds like JMS. He has that type of humor.
Yeah, I tried to track down a version of the script. There is a copy of Grey 17 is missing, like the hard copy version of the script being sold on eBay currently for over $200.
The episode's worth $200. It looks like that's the budget of it.
The schematics.
Say 30, I know. It's a mistake in the blueprints. You know, they rushed to get this place finished. Nobody ever caught it because not many people get down here. Take my word for it. I went down every floor of this place myself and counted. It's 29, for sure.
Marcus is here to fight him. And not only is he going to fight him, he's going to do a specific Minbari fight. He's going to fight him to the death. What was it? Den Shah. And Rachel, talk to me about John Vickery and how he approaches all of this, because I think what makes this entire sequence work is John Vickery's delight.
I feel like Pat should take this one.
Well, you are the bonehead expert, Pat. You're the bonehead in chief.
I was trying to find the lyrics to be prepared, and I was going to try to sing it. Your powers of perception, no. Yeah. I just wanted them to sing so much and then kiss at the end. Yeah. It would have been great.
Naroon fucks. That's canon.
Canon.
He fucks. He fucks.
Yeah. But yeah, he comes in again. Yeah, he's got the swagger. He's got the energy. It's amazing. He's just like so annoyed, but ready to do this because he's like, "You're human." Like, pardon my language, but like, fuck off. Like, don't bother me. It's great.
Do you know who I am, by the way?
Yeah,
I killed 50,000 of you guys. You're not going to stand against me.
I'm one of the best warriors of my entire race.
I'm awesome. Like, this is one of those where the actor is portraying that. It's not even lines of dialogue. It's just the actor's like, I'm the most fucking awesome guy.
A guy who's actually trained in fighting.
Yeah.
Is being approached by the Renaissance Fair guy, quoting Monty Python at him. Yeah.
Yeah, and he wants to fight a Minbari fight to the death. How dare you, you filthy little man. But he's also...
You triple dog dared me.
He's also ecstatic to fight him. Like, that's what I really like.
Nice warm-up before I go kill Delenn.
I really like how John Vickery does both sides of this. He mixes them together really well, where he's pissed off, he's annoyed, he doesn't want to be doing this, but also he's really happy and really ecstatic and wants to kill this guy, and he thinks it'll be a lot of fun. Yeah. And I like how he does that, because he goes full villain mode at times. Like, you get the very funny exchange where he breaks Marcus's ribs and he counts how many he broke, and then he hits him again.
Oh wait, that's 3. Yeah. Well, I definitely got the impression like when he complained to Delenn was like, "We died for your war, and then when you told us to surrender, we did it," and stuff. Like, he's like, he talks about it being like, we put down our lives, like we have such a cost to it. But then I remember seeing the other side where he was like, well, when the war was happening, he was kind of having fun. Like, I think he was like, he's like, not am I good at being a warrior, but I enjoy my job. You know, isn't that what we all want, to enjoy our jobs? Yeah.
John Vickery clearly has a stage background. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a Shakespearean actor in his catalogue of work.
I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't. some point do Shakespeare.
And I think that we know that JMS and the casting people would get attached to these actors and bring them back. We all talk about how JMS had the plan. You know, he had the Bible of the show and everything was planned out. And, you know, he had trapdoors for things and had to rearrange things. But overall, he had all this stuff planned out. But when it comes to people like Naroon or Regent Verini or like Zach Allen, you can see that the plan doesn't matter if you've got good stuff that you can work with. Naroon, I know for a fact, wasn't supposed to really come back after that first episode he was in, but they kept bringing him back, and as they keep bringing him back, they lean into the strengths of the actor more, because in that first episode, and even the second one he was in, they were relying on him being a specific type, while here, they're really embracing the experience that this actor has had in his craft, where there's far more of that Shakespearean energy here, where because he has that Shakespearean energy, it makes the character come across as far more impactful and important. Because if he didn't play it like that, I think he would just be one of those like, oh yeah, the little recurring villain guy keeps coming back up. But you get these actors like, say, Walter Koenig, for instance, where they have such a specific style of acting that is embraced by the production that it makes those characters more intriguing and more fascinating, and you want to see them more. And it gives the writers an opportunity, in this case just a writer, the opportunity to find something new about this person. Because Naroon, in the first 2 episodes, he was just a villain man. He was just a bad dude. He was just a guy who was able to have some humility. But here, in this fight sequence, it's really embracing all the different shades of acting that John Vickery can bring to this role, where he's egotistical, he's villainous, he's funny, he's trying to be a compassionate person too. Like, he is actually trying to be like, walk away from this. He's a noble...
Yeah, it doesn't count. It doesn't count if you want to pull it back, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you can run away.
Yes,
you
not
can run
Mbryo.
away.
Yeah, and John Vickery gets to demonstrate all of that in just this fight scene, and then we get it even more so when we get to the end of the episode when it comes to Naroon. But I just think that what I really like about B5 is it's always heralded as something that had a strict idea, like a strict schedule and form and plan. But if you know more about the series and if you pay attention,
there's flexibility.
There's lots of flexibility. And I always wonder, like, what would have happened if JMS did not bend, if he did not embrace these talents that just came into the show?
Well, we would be back in the past at this point in the show.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, it's something to consider.
Like, Naroon would not be alive in the show that we would now be watching.
It's like in Breaking Bad, where the first season was supposed to end with Jesse getting killed, but the writer's strike stopped them from doing that, and they just embraced Aaron Paul. And it's like, could you imagine what that show would be like if they followed through on their plan? Sometimes it's good to go off the plan, and Babylon 5 more often than not succeeds at doing that.
Yeah. I think of Babylon 5's plan as sort of being like it's the floorboards, it's the base, and then JMS gets to adjust the path and build on it overall, and so like it evolves, it grows.
Why all of this? Pride, duty. You've been trained well, but you must have known you couldn't win. So why do it?
For her. We live for the one. We die for the one.
We get the ceremony and we get shots of Delenn about to drink from a chalice because, you know, religious imagery.
Mm-hmm. That was part of the work that her and Linnea had to do.
She was going to drink a red drink. It's not wine because they can't drink alcohol, but it was some red drink.
You can get lots of non-alcoholic wine.
Fine. It's non-alcoholic wine, which
it's
is
human blood. Don't tell anybody.
Yeah, it's human blood. No, it's Minbari blood. They can just drain a lot of it and be fine. Let's never forget that was set up in Soul Hunter. Episode 2, drain Delenn through her foot. You can drain them for ages. They have a lot of blood. She just put a tube in her foot and just drained it into that chalice. And wow.
Mbryo have red blood, right? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they do. You know this because when Naroon walks into the ceremony, he has a scratch on his head with a light redness to it. So,
okay.
So you know.
it's not from him like wiping Marcus's
yeah,
blood
that's
on
what I was
him from the bike.
Again, John Vickery needs to be praised because this sequence here where he walks in, the sound just drops. Everybody's afraid and they don't know what to do. He just walks in, takes his hood off and like has the staff up and it's just covered in blood.
Jakar just pulls a bag of popcorn up out of nowhere, just ready to watch.
Yeah. And he just throws the staff on the ground and just lets Delenn know that now there is blood between the military caste and the humans, but they will follow you. They would die for you. They would not die for me, Delenn. And he learns a lesson. Naroon is ominous, though. I love this too. He's ominous as he's telling us that he's learned a little lesson.
It's like, I'm not here to kill you, but it's still like it still feels very threatening.
In another actor's hands, when he says the artlizahh word, when he says that, John Vickery really puts
spiteful.
Yeah, and he really puts a lot of work into that delivery. Artlizahh. He's such a good actor that when he delivers it like that, you fist pump. You're like, that's so fucking cool. In another actor's hands, that could be really silly, but he manages to bring the gravitas.
Mm-hmm.
And then Rachel, tell us about Marcus, your boy. Were you worried that he had died?
The first time, I was a little worried because I was just like, what happened to Marcus, though? And then we get reassured that he's going to be okay. He's
going to make it.
Yeah.
We usually kill one of the main cast members in the season finale.
Yeah. I was like, but this show makes its own rules. And then I was very pleased with what we got. The cute little thing at the end that we've alluded to already is Naroon being like, I need to talk to him. And
Were you going to try and kill him?
Really?
Finish the job?
You need to talk to him now? Nearly killing him wasn't enough.
If I wanted him dead, he would be dead.
And then, being like, and the death was mine.
Oh, I really enjoyed the exchange. I think it was Lanier where you have him, you have Naroon coming in, and it's like he won't hear you. It's like, well, then I shall be. Well, I can't remember exactly what he says, but
I'll talk quickly.
Yeah, I will be brief. Then
Yeah.
I will just say my point, and we get this beautiful little monologue from Naroon. A real
heartfelt.
A character with introspection and admits growth. It's something that I was going to say you don't expect, but you do, because that's him throughout this episode. Even though he's being a bad guy, that he's going to kill Delenn, you see throughout this story that he is somebody who is thinking about the bigger picture.
Hope for redemption is always there with Naroon.
And I really like this exchange where he's talking and that the death was his, and the fact that someone like Marcus, a human, would fight for her and die for her, and that he is, in fact, the one who's more Minbari than I, really moves Naroon and can help us understand in later episodes why Naroon goes on the journey he does, where he eases up and softens and becomes far more of a noble person.
Religious.
He becomes far more of a religious person. Yeah, it's really great. And Pat, it wouldn't be a Marcus scene if he didn't get a quip in, would it?
Yeah, it's like something like if next time you have problems, like to make it less painful or something.
Less uncomfortable. Like he doesn't even say painful. Like it's such a
Yeah,
he's
subdued
even
the whole thing.
lowering the stakes further as he's like there with several broken ribs because we've confirmed that he broke at least 3. A lot more would have been broken, I think, in the process of finishing that fight.
You both were dishonest there. You put his quippy exchange in less than 5 seconds, but the way Jason Carter does it goes for like 2 minutes.
Oh,
it's like
he does a lot of swallow.
Next time.
Dragged out so very.
Next time you need a revelation,
like
less uncomfortable.
And he's like licking his lips and he's like, I'm thirsty. And this is where
it's like that's also your general style of delivery with these things, as we saw at the beginning when he's talking with Linnea, and he just like it's a similar length of time. He just uses more words to make his quip, but since he's gravely injured, he has fewer words to work with.
I am a sucker for when 2 opposing warriors bond over the fight they've had and become friendly. I'm a sucker for that, and we get a big, almost belly laugh out of Naroon.
Oh, yeah, it bounces out to the other rooms in MedLab.
Pat, do you know the story about Naroon's laughter?
No.
So, why is it not on screen, some may ask? It's because, meanwhile, when they were in between takes, they didn't have the cameras rolling, but they still had the audio on. Jason Carter made John Vickery laugh with some silly comment he made. And it was such a joyous laugh that JMS wanted to keep it in because he thought it would be a great addition.
It is.
Oh, that's great.
It makes that scene.
It's my favorite part. Yeah, it's my favorite part of the episode, honestly.
It's my favorite part, and it was something that was by accident. That was just something that, thankfully, they had the audio still on, and they just included it. That's why it cuts to Delenn and Linnea reacting.
I love that it's their reaction of being like, what the fuck is happening?
I love that too.
Yeah, like if he's laughing, like that's either really great or really scary.
Yes, but in real life, it's a genuine laughter. So they didn't want to bother try to replicate a laugh. They have a real good, genuine, like hearty laugh from John Vickery. Just use that, and let's make it even funnier by cutting to Delenn and Linnea looking at this with a side eye. And I like that. It's if Grey 17 is missing was more of that stuff, this would be such a winner of a story for me, but it isn't. It's one that has a lot of issues.
Yeah, but it could have been something rather than the bad episodes where it's just like, nah, this idea is trash. It should have just gone straight in the bin. It's just like the Grey 17 part, straight in the bin. The Naroon stuff needs to stay.
Strange that a human in his last moments should be more of a Mbryo than I. Perhaps it is true what Delenn said, that we are not of the same blood, that we are of the same heart.
This week, for the Actors Spotlight, we are looking at Freddie!
Just Freddie.
Just Freddie.
Just Freddie.
It's just Freddie.
Robert Englund, right?
Yeah.
And for the Spotlight section, this is a part of the podcast where we go over the performance of an actor or actress that appeared in the episode, whether they're big or small, minor or recurring, one-off or mainstay. We go over their performance, what we thought of them, anything we know this person for, any interesting pieces of trivia. And yes, we have to talk about the fact that Freddy Krueger is in Babylon 5. That's the sci-fi show he chose. He didn't go with Star Trek. He did
Sliders.
He did Sliders. I was going to say he did do Sliders, so I take it back. But he didn't do Sequest. He didn't. No, he chose Babylon 5 and Sliders, which is rather bizarre. Now, Pat, Babylon 5 is jam-packed with bizarre and amazing guest star performances, people that you would never expect to show up in this series. So, tell us what you think about the fact that Freddy Krueger is here. Was this something when you saw it you were surprised, or did you even know it was him? Because I think a lot of people know him in the makeup rather than out of it. Do you remember your reaction to this and your overall feelings on it now?
I at the time I don't think I had any like recollection that it was Freddy Krueger. I like horror movies, but I have never seen a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. So I think, because it would have been around the same time, and I'm trying to find the year, but I think I remember him being, it was like a year later. He played Lucifer on Married with Children, and I was like, that's the devil.
Yes. He was Lucifer, and
I'm looking at his filmography, and I'm like, I just don't have a thing for Robert Englund. Like I would recognize him at the time. I think later on I knew who he was because of Comic-Cons that he shows up, and I always hear he's like a delightful person to meet in real life. Like he loves the fans. He's one of those kind of people.
Yeah,
it's nice
very
to
passionate.
hear that. Yeah, it's nice to hear that he's like, one of the most famous horror monsters, and it's like, but the real life guy is like, I love the fans. The fans gave me everything.
Yeah.
I
have a quote.
Oh yes, go
on. So this is from him. I don't know exactly when this was said, but it's on his IMDb. I'm basically a movie actor now, and my big roles are mostly horror movies, unless I'm doing a guest star or something, and occasionally I try and get back into television. So he notes that it's like, he has some understanding that it's weird that he's in this random episode of Babylon 5, because he's like, I occasionally try and get back to TV.
Well, I would say one of his bigger starts, right, was the V, right?
Yes, V, yes. Great point of reference there. We've had a few V actors here on Babylon 5, so I do wonder if that's a reasoning for why he's here, because we know that this production likes to get specific actors because the people involved, whether it's JMS or the casting people, are fans of their work for these sci-fi shows or these shows from the 60s or 70s, or if they've been in productions that they've worked on previously, so a lot of Murder, She Wrote people, Hill Street Blues people. But I would imagine like it would just be a novelty to get Freddy Krueger on Babylon 5, because this is at a point where Freddy was the big one. Like you had Jason and Freddy, and Michael Myers as well. But like this is where you have these actors that are of a cult status because of their horror movie legendary stuff. And I would say he is that one out of those slasher villains or like those horror villains where it's the actor, because anyone can play Jason, anyone can play Michael Myers, but Freddy is the actor.
Yeah.
Freddy is Robert Englund. He's the one with a personality. He's the one with quips. He's the one where it requires somebody to speak lines of dialogue and to embody the role. So it just is cool that he's here. I've always been delighted when he shows up in things, because I'm a fan of his. I've watched a few of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. I mean, the second one has Warren Keffer in it. So there you are. And I just like him as a performer. I think he's very fun. He just has a certain way of delivering lines. He has a very, when he's not Freddy, he has a very soft voice. He did in this episode, a very soft, lilting voice in this episode. Lots of lines of dialogue where, honestly, he kind of sounded like an old grandmother to me at points.
I was going to say, he comes across as like an adult explaining things to children a lot.
But he, as an actor, just has that type of voice. But when he does Freddy, that's when he does the Freddy voice. And that's interesting to note down. But yeah, I overall am a big fan of his. Rachel, what about you? You're a Nightmare on Elm Street fan. You specifically like that first movie.
That's the only one that I've watched.
You got to watch the third one.
Like, I still remember most of like the jump rope song that they have. I was obsessed with that. I'm like, I don't know why, but I was just obsessed with that rhyme that they had.
And so when Freddy Krueger himself shows up in Babylon 5, did you have any reaction to it? Because he's a face, he's a voice.
Yeah, I recognize the voice more than the face, obviously, because
he's not in the makeup.
Yeah. But then I'm like, oh wait, looking through his career, I'm like, oh, he's in a bunch of other things.
Yes. I was looking through it and I went, oh, he's in this episode of this show, this movie. He's in a brief moment here. Like, he was in Ford Fairlane. Yeah. I forgot that he was in Ford Fairlane. There you go. He was in a brief moment of Ford Fairlane.
He's uncredited in the 1976 A Star Is Born.
Okay.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
why is he
the
there?
Streisand one? Yeah.
I don't know.
Like he
That would have been
started
early
out
in his
alone.
career.
Yeah. He was in 2 episodes of a TV show that we really love. Soap.
Oh, yes. I remember him in Soap.
Simon.
Yes. Yeah, that was like season 3, I want to say. And yeah, he's just that guy that's been in the biz for
Charlie's
so long.
Angels. Chips.
He is known for being Freddy, though. Like, when you look at his
Yeah.
career, there comes a point where he becomes Freddy, and then everything else is just...
And that's what he is.
Everything else is just the works in between him being Freddy or after he's been finished being Freddy. And I don't mean this in any negative way, but it is that thing where that's his role. He'll forever be known as Freddy Krueger, and it's because he's so fucking good. No matter how bad those movies are, he's still
in
great.
Night Court.
Yes, he's in Night Court, starring everyone's favorite actor, Brent Spiner.
I do find it amusing that he met his second wife when he was doing, I think it was a directing job, and that's after he's become Freddy.
Yeah, right.
Like, he got married in 88, and the first Nightmare on Elm Street came out in 84. So he's had, like,
he does a lot of voice
by the
acting.
time that somebody is like, yes, I'll marry you and spend my life with you, Freddy Krueger, he's done like 2 or 3 movies.
He's never allowed to wear a striped shirt, though. Or striped sweater.
Yeah.
He can wear the glove, though. I will say, though, I like him as an actor, but I don't mean to bring the mood down, but I fucking hated him in this episode of Babylon 5. I just detested this character, as well as the performance. It's pedantic, but I just wanted him to fucking adjust his glasses. He had them on the very tip of his nose, and I really didn't enjoy the character as well as the performance here. It was just... It's kind of hard to separate the two, and it's just that thing of the characters speaking utter nonsense. They're supposed to be menacing and funny, and I found that character to be neither. And you get that big monologue about how your hand has this in it, and this in it, and the universe is in a hangnail, and I just wanted to punch him. And the thing is, you can make a character annoying by design. But the thing is, I don't get a real sense of catharsis or even resolution when it comes to this guy. Like, there's no real. He just stops. The plot ends and he's done. We never see him again. We never talk about him again. I just was really repelled by this performance. Well, I will commend, though, he isn't phoning it in.
No,
he is not phoning it in. He's in fact cranking it up.
I still have more things that I know him from.
You're a Chuck fan. He was in Chuck.
Yes, and he was in Bones. He was in the regular show.
Yes, I remember him in the regular show. He was like anti-Pops. He was like
Yeah,
the evil
that's
version
one
of
that
Pops.
I remember as well. And he's in season 4 of Stranger Things.
Yes, you have to. Well, Stranger Things sucks the dick of the 80s, and you got to bring Freddy in to be a creepy weirdo.
Is it all burnt up too?
Yeah, he's got no eyes, I think.
I haven't got that. I literally just started watching season 4.
I only know because I saw a picture of him in it, and it's like he's got makeup on his eyes, so he gets to wear makeup again.
So I realized I said I've never seen a Nightmare on Elm Street movie, but I realized that I definitely saw Freddy versus Jason.
That's the last time he played Freddy properly. I think
that was, yeah.
Since then, he's done voice stuff for Freddy and maybe some commercials or little spots, but I think that was the last. I mean, that was the last one, because then they tried to reboot Nightmare on Elm Street, and nobody liked that.
No, because it's him. I think one of his quotes was just like, my favorite part of Freddy versus Jason is when we double team Destiny's Child.
Oh yeah, Freddy versus Jason is dumb as rocks, but it's very entertaining. Pat, what did you think of his performance in this episode?
Oh, it's a nothing character. It didn't have to be him, but you know what? But yeah, you're right. He didn't wow me. You know, he's just stammering off dialogue. It's no negative thoughts about him. He was just there. You know,
He's
like I
doing
said, when I
his
watch this
thing.
episode, I don't pay attention to the grade 17 part so much.
Yeah, I was very guilty of that too.
Pat was putting his fingers in his ears and going la 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 every time that cut
But
in.
maybe, just give it some more depth to the character. Maybe it was a callback from the script when he talks about a hangnail, but then earlier on in the episode, we had Garibaldi chewing on his, so, maybe it's connected.
Yeah, it's a really smart script, and I will agree with
I
that.
wouldn't go that
It's really
Chekhov's
clever.
bullets. What more? What more do we need?
Yeah.
Check out his fingernail.
Yeah, you nailed it. I actually give this episode a yum yum.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. Yes, I don't have too much else to say about him. He's just one of those guys where he's had a large career where outside of Freddy stuff, he just does one and done appearances and things. Or when he's in a movie, he is in the movie because he's Freddy. You know the actor's Freddy, so he will forever
He also
live as a
does guest spots as Freddy as well.
as he should. I mean, he was also in Chud 2, the Bud the Chud. I just want to mention that. He's uncredited, but he's in it. But
he's getting close to like 150 credits, I think, on IMDb.
And we don't need more from him. He's a horror icon. He engages with the fans. He does these conventions. He seems very personable, likable. He's got a wealth of stories. He seems very understanding of the horror landscape. He's the type of person where if he shows up in a horror documentary, he's going to be one of the greatest interviews that you have in that documentary. He's very well spoken. He's worked with everyone at some point. There are people who will go through his IMDb and go, "Oh, I've seen that. Oh yeah, he was in that." But yeah, I do adore him, and I wish that we got another Freddy movie at some point with him. I know Freddy vs. Jason is probably the greatest place to end it because it seems like the logical conclusion point where you have the two big guys fighting against each other. But man, I just miss that guy and his silly jokes. Hey, I would watch another what was it? His Freddy's Nightmares, the anthology show that they had. Especially in this age where we're bringing horror anthology shows back, like Tales from the Crypt, and Guillermo del Toro has one. I would watch another one.
Creep Show. Creep Show is a really good one.
Creep Show, yeah. I'd watch another one with Freddy, and you get like good directors and good people, and you just have Freddy and as the narrator.
Show.
You make a good show, and you have Freddy as the narrator, as your MC, as your host, as your Rod Serling type.
Ever had a man in your bed before? Don't worry. I'll be real gentle.
What would we rate Grey 17 is missing on our scale of Yum being bad and Yum Yum being good? Rachel?
Yum.
Yum Yum.
Yum yum.
Ooh, I'm the tiebreaker here. I have to give it a Yum.
Yum.
It's really difficult because the Narune stuff is excellent. It moves him along. I love John Vickery and his voice where he just says lines of dialogue. Hello, Delenn. You motherfucker, Delenn. Who do you think you are, walking in this hallway, minding your own business, Delenn? I'm a normal man. I read children's books out loud to the young Mbryo in this voice. I would love that. I would love
imagine
that.
There's a Simpsons clip where they have Christopher Walken reading children.
Cow Over the Moon. Yeah.
Don't scooch away from me, children. Like, I would love John Vickery to read children as Narune, read it to children.
I would
like
I would too. The three bears.
The three bears. One was just right.
Yes. Those silly bears. That Goldilocks, that little bitch.
I've killed 50,000 bears.
I've killed 50,000 of those bears.
I think if we're doing the comparison of Christopher Walken reading a children's book, I would like him to do a similar thing as the Three Little Pigs.
Oh, John Vickery? Where he does like the Christopher Walken sketch where he's reading Three Little Pigs? Yeah. He'll do the wolf voice really well.
I want to see him do it. I don't want an animation. I want to see him.
Little pig, let me.
I want him to do Goldilocks. That's the story that I want to hear.
Red Riding Hood would be another good one. Yeah, all of them. John Vickery, contact us, man. I want to talk to you. You're one of my favorite guest stars, and I haven't heard any of your thoughts on B5. I'd love to know. But
the new host, he becomes the new host of Shining Time Station. Like, Thomas
is he on
the Train
Cameo?
Engine.
Can we get this?
Could he become the new host of YumYumPodcast? I would just want to hear him say, I give Gray 17 a yum yum. Rachel, what are we going to be looking at and talking about next time?
I am so keen to watch this episode. I am so keen to talk about this episode.
I'm also excited to know what Babylon 5 will be offering next week.
On the next Babylon 5.
It's episode 20 of season 3, and The Rock cried out, "No hiding place." An ecclesiastical group from Earth brings information and inspiration to B5. Meanwhile, Sheridan discovers the Shadow's attack plan and Malari sets a trap for Reefer.
No! No!
Die, you bastard! Die!
No! I love my boy Reefer. Oh.
But I love the way that he dies.
Well, we'll get to talk about that next time.
So good.
We're going to talk about that next time on our discussion of Babylon 5. People, make sure to give And the Rock Cried Out No Hiding Place a watch for yourself in the interim of time. I mean, it's a great one. I mean, you don't need an excuse to watch it, but our podcast could be that excuse. Pat, are you going to watch it? You're just going to sit down and watch it and be like, yep, here's Reefer.
I love the song of whenever he's dying. Oh, it's great.
It's so fucking good.
So
good.
make sure people to give that a look over. You can follow us on your social media platform of choice under YumYumPod or YumYumPodcast. We're posting on there regularly. You can interact with us. You can shout us out. You can share the podcast. If you aren't sharing the podcast with people, please, it would be awesome. We would very much like it if you did. Get the word around. There are some people out there who aren't aware of YYE, Yum Yum Energy.
Jakar was here.
Jakar was here, but he didn't say his famous words.
No,
but
he didn't have any lines. I don't think.
He was there. Andreas got in makeup to stand around and say.
What if John
nothing.
Vickery said it?
Oh, what if John Vickery said, "Good eating to you, Dylan"? I would love that very much. But
good eating to you, Ryan, and good eating to you, Pat.
Yes, good eating to you, Patrick.
Good eating.